High Commissioner, very special to sit down with you here at the British Consulate in Sydney.
It's fantastic to be here and to see you, Ticky. And what a day we're meeting on.
Well, this is the day we've all been waiting for, when the free trade agreement between Australia and the UK comes into force.
I know, and tariffs will fall away on so many products. Consumers are going to really benefit.
I think for our side, having talked to many of our British businesses and Australian businesses, our members out here, some of the things are the tariff drops, but there's so much else in this agreement where you think over time this is just going to build, and skills and mobility as well.
Absolutely, and I think the sort of mobility chapter of the free trade agreement and what it promises is one of the most exciting things.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that our younger generation, in fact, it goes up to 35 years of age from 30. So
yes, so not so young.
No, not so young. And people who thought they'd missed the opportunity suddenly find that the opportunity is right back there. And for our people-to-people links, it's so important for Brits to come out here and have an Australian experience, and likewise for Australians to go to the UK to live and work and have a different worldview that they bring back and enrich their lives here in Australia and vice versa. So we all need talent, and I think this will be a huge game changer for us.
Yeah. Vicki, obviously you've been High Commissioner in other countries. You're now into your 5th year as High Commissioner in Australia. How do you think the relationship has changed over your period?
I suppose every High Commissioner likes to think that in their time they re-energised the relationship and brought it to a new level. I do too, but I think there have been significant milestones in the last 4 years. Not least, of course, the thing we're celebrating today, the free trade agreement, but we've had a fintech bridge, we've had a space bridge, bringing those two sectors and the partnership and collaboration between our two countries on those fronts. This is groundbreaking, new horizon work. We also have had the AUKUS trilateral arrangement, which is huge, and certainly in terms of our defence capabilities and our defence industry, it locks us in for generations to come. This is genuine integrated partnership that will deliver real and game-changing outcomes.
All right. So basically what we're talking about with the FTA, with AUKUS, with these bridges is really it's about optics as well, isn't it? It's just this sense that the relationship is much stronger now.
I think it is revitalized, and a big thing for me is that we recognize each other in our modern reality. I think for both countries there was a complacency, a perception of each other that perhaps was stuck in a different time. So I'd like to think the last 4 years has been about shaking that up a bit, about reassessing who we are and what we mean to each other.
You're a very interesting person, if I might say so, and a very interesting person to be here talking to this right at this time. Your speech at the National Press Club, I think, was something of a milestone for everyone to think about. How did you approach that speech? What did you want the message to be?
I think going back to what I've just said is a reassessment of who we are today. And particularly in a year of the voice and that referendum, the debate will inevitably touch on Britain's colonial history in this country. And that is a reality, that is a fact. But we have to build a partnership that looks to the future on a positive trajectory. So I think that was my starting point for that speech. Whilst we have to reconcile our history, we need to understand who and what we are, what that partnership is, and that it is one that embraces all of society here in Australia. And I want people to see Britain for who we are today.
And this modern Britain, I mean, you think of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his background, of course. How do you think modern Britain is different, if you like?
Well, we are multicultural. We're very open. We continue to have all the strengths that we are known for. Parliamentary democracy. People refer to the Westminster-style democracy. That is a gift to the world. It is a legacy of our colonial past, but it's one of the positive legacies.
And of course, we have had the extraordinary coronation, the passing of Her Majesty last year, and now King Charles on the throne. Do you think Australia, and regardless of whether you're a Republican or not in Australia, how do you think people will come to know the King a bit better? Because to my mind, he's been rather ahead of his time on issues like multi-faith or the environment. How do you think Australians will come to get to know him?
Well, now that he is the head of state, you have to reassess your relationship with him. The one thing I would say for all the realms, Britain included, he is probably the most prepared of all our monarchs. The long apprenticeship that he has had following his mother, and that absolute commitment to public service. I did a TV interview just before the coronation, and I said, constitutional monarchy, the monarch doesn't rule. The monarch actually serves the government of the day. And it is for governments to ask of their head of state what they need that head of state to do. And I think that's something people really have to understand. His commitment, it was almost the first thing he said in Westminster Abbey when that young chorister went up to him. His response was, "I'm here to serve you." And that, I think, is what people have to understand. His service is to the country, this country, to Britain, to the other realms, and all the 56 countries of the Commonwealth. How can he help? And your point, he was ahead on climate. He was ahead of everybody else on environment at a time when it wasn't popular. But he's been proven right. The global challenge today that we all face is climate change and its consequences, longer droughts, more extreme weather affecting rural and farming communities.
And our Pacific neighbours.
And our Pacific neighbours. He was at the forefront of that debate. His commitment to young people through the Prince's Trust, backing them to start businesses when the high street retail banks won't touch them. This was visionary stuff. And a lot of people don't see that, don't know about that work. I hope they now find out about it. And as long as he is the head of state, then embrace that and ask him to do the things that you all want him to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned, the challenge of energy transition. The Chamber itself is taking a delegation in June, a big catalyst over to the UK. We're very excited about that. Coming up also, of course, is London Tech Week, and you mentioned the bridges in space and fintech. So, and you're getting involved in that as well.
Yes, I am. So I'm off to London next week. I'll be visiting some UK companies who I hope to help increase their market share here. But importantly, I'll be docking into events around London Tech Week, meeting some of the Australian companies, looking at the opportunities for themselves in the UK, but also partnerships with British companies to realise the opportunities of this huge global marketplace.
Yeah. Look, I think it's so interesting because our strengths in technology, high-tech services, digital, all these things, you can see it makes so much sense to cooperate, collaborate on different things and to exchange both knowledge and on the trade and investment side. So it's all a buzz, I think, now. Let me move on to AUKUS because that is such an important decision. The AUKUS announcement, which of course puts one of the British primes, BAE, in an extraordinarily good position with the AUKUS submarine happening. But it's not just the subs build, is it? It's also Pillar 2. And again, that's all about high tech.
It is. From AI to quantum computing, subsea, hypersonic. these are all the new technologies of the future, indeed pillar 2. And if I come back to the FTA with its innovation chapter, a recognition that there will be technology we can't even conceive of now. But how do we keep the door open that when that technology comes on stream, we can work together to realize the opportunity? Each of us on our own can't deliver the outcomes.
Yes.
But our partnership and our collaboration means that we can maximize the respective resources